This is Joanna Lilly. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Since its inception in 1949, Mental Health Awareness Month has been a cornerstone in addressing the challenges faced by millions of Americans living with mental health conditions. Although this month of recognition has been in existence for a while, stigmatization around mental health still exists. Throughout the month of May, we are bringing you episodes from the parent perspective to highlight this special month. Welcome to the Parent Series, brought to you by Success is Subjective.
It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilly.
Rosie is the parent of a teen son whose late diagnosis and escalating dysregulation in the home made it impossible to decide to do anything other than find treatment elsewhere. Rosie recounts the outpatient therapist questioning just how serious things were, almost implying that maybe her and her husband were exaggerating how dire things were in their home. I really appreciated this episode because Rosie was honest how having her son in an adventure therapy program wasn't sunshine and rainbows, which was an anomaly compared to the other parents with children in the same program at the same time. It was a long process, and she talks through her experience on their journey getting to where things are now. Let's not wait any longer. Here's Rosie. Rosie, thanks for being a guest on the Parent Series of the Success is Subjective podcast. If you're okay, just jumping right in, can you share a little backstory of what was going on with your child prior to entering treatment?
Sure. My son had just finished his freshman year in high school. Prior to that, things here had gotten challenging, but as time went on, it just progressively got worse. He had always had an ADHD diagnosis, and in March, at the end of his freshman year, he was diagnosed with level 1 autism. That's something that we kind of suspected maybe. We had sought much professional help for him over the years, and people were like, no, yes. And so finally we got this diagnosis. I don't know how much it helped, except maybe it was going to help us sort of guide treatment. But the summer before we sent him, and we sent him in September of his sophomore year, we just had pretty much constant dysregulation, punching walls, doing nothing socially, just sitting on his computer, no regard for us. It was very stressful for everyone. And it was really hard on him, but we had nothing we said had any impact on him. So we were constantly asking his therapist and saying, we need more support. We don't know what to do. And he was seeing someone virtually. No one would see him in person. And we were not given any solutions. And so that's kind of what brought us to the decision to get in touch with an educational consultant.
And what you just kind of said, which was really important, is that you were asking for help. You're asking for more help. And on the outpatient level, it felt like even though maybe folks were either A, they weren't available, or B, they didn't see what you were seeing in the home, it just wasn't going to be enough. Even if there were more people that kind of leaned in, it sounded like your son was in a really bad spot. And like you were kind of describing, the home environment sounded really intense.
It was awful. I mean, my girls would have to lock themselves in their rooms when he would be dysregulated, which was almost every day. And he would never do anything against them, but it was always directed toward me or my husband, but mostly me. But we just kind of tried to get them away. And to be honest with you, his therapist, I actually think he didn't fully believe how bad it was in our home. And the reason I think that is because I had my daughter meet with him, and he asked her, is it really as bad as your mom says it is? And I was really upset about that when my daughter told me, and she didn't tell me right away. It was, we weren't even in treatment with him any longer. So yeah, that really did tell me we weren't going to get the support that we needed. We never would have gotten it from him. So yeah, I was also worried. He had up until that point a very good record at school. And I was worried that one of my biggest concerns about him, because school meant so much to him, was that there was no way he would be able to function properly when he got back to school. And that was also we had sort of this big event happen in our house. He was very involved in building Tesla coil, which is like this high voltage electronic thing. And we thought it was unsafe. We took it away. And that was that's when he really lost it. But part of the reason we did it in early September was to really protect his record at school. So yeah, that's what led us to the decision to send him.
Yeah. Well, and you, like you said, you saw the writing on the wall. Like school is important to him. And so if there's one thing that you could protect as a parent or try to salvage in that moment, it was the decision of, let's just hit pause on school. We need to get help. You got to figure out how to have those skills be better regulated. And we as a family probably need to go through a process of just even healing through some of the experiences that we just had. So you alluded to connecting with an educational consultant. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of what your consultant, how they helped you, where did they guide you, and what was kind of this journey for your son?
So at the point that we contacted her, we were very much deep in crisis. And I had talked to her 9 months prior briefly. So and at that time I thought, okay, we're not going to do this. So I called her back. And when I called her back, we had decided, okay, we are going to move forward with sending him somewhere. But we were in crisis. So to be honest with you, I know people spend a lot of time researching where to send their child and so forth. We did not. She basically said, this is the program that I think would be a good fit for your son. And the therapist that I'd like for him is actually available right now. That doesn't always happen. And that was pretty much the end of it. We said, oh, we're going to do this. I was on these Facebook pages with parents who had kids in different programs. I did research the next step much more, but we sent him basically just listen to her. So we feel very grateful for that referral. And I guess it's just, that's a world that she's very familiar with. And so she knows all the places, all the therapists and so forth. So, and it was the right place for him. So.
Oh, and that's good to hear. I think that's when you're in the thick of the crisis, right? Like sometimes it's hard to step out of that emotional brain to be able to do the research, which requires, being rational. And again, when you're in a crisis, it's really stinking hard to do anything other than just like try to contain what you can in the moment in your home. So you fortunately had a good experience. It was the right place, right therapist for your son. And by this, like the second program, you were out of the crisis. So you were able to spend a lot more time doing the actual research and more thorough, right? Like making the decision for yourself rather than just kind of having the consultant drive the path. What was the treatment experience like for your son?
So he went to Aspiro, the wilderness program. We actually had him transported. Can't believe they actually got him there, but they did it. They were amazing. It was the hardest thing we've ever had to do in our lives, and also the thing we're the most proud of. So sending him. Treatment there, he was very angry with us, very little contact with us. The letters home were bitter and wishing dark things on me and my husband. His therapist said that he was in the top 5% of the most rigid people she had ever encountered. She was really wonderful. She was sort of like our lifeline. We talked to her every week. She told us he was safe. There was one week where he actually needed a reset, and he went off with 2 other therapists. Like this program, which has since closed, unfortunately, but it would take the kids out for the week, and then they would come back for like 5 days, and then come back for 2 days, and then they'd go back out. And I guess he was not doing well, and they decided to send him with 2 therapists on his own instead of going with the group. He had like a private reset, and it really made a huge difference. I do remember going to the family thing toward the end where they kind of reunite with you. That was a really hard weekend for me. My husband couldn't come. When he walked in, all the kids kind of walk in and they go to their families. He didn't even sit with me. So at that point, he wasn't really even talking to me yet. And it was very late in his time there. So that was like end of November. And he left Aspiro 2 weeks later to go to his next step. So on that trip is when I visited in person the places that we were considering. I did keep telling people, like, this child that you have is not the child that we've known most of our lives. It's just like we felt like we had lost him, like he just was not functioning really at all. I also remember at that reunion, at the end, all the families kind of went around and talked about their experience at that. And everyone was so positive, like, oh, everything's great, and they got to me and I said, I wish I could say that, but, he's still pretty mad at us. And, we're just not having that same experience. I never doubted the program at all. That wasn't it. It was just that he had not, they told us in Wilderness, all you're looking for is a U-turn. And that's what you're looking for, a turn back in the right direction. And I did feel, whereas everyone else's U-turn was pretty dramatic, ours was very, by the end, he was talking to me, we sat and had meals together, we communicated, and his therapist was surprised at how hard things had been at the reunion because he had kind of turned the corner. And so anyway, that was the Wilderness program. And I think it was really good for him to be off devices for that period of time. I think it cleared his head. He doesn't really talk about it. He doesn't talk about it positively or negatively, but he has said that he sees the value in it. So that was it was hard, but that was how that worked out for us.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that as I was picturing you in the circle with other parents, surrounded by other parents that are just kind of like glowing and talking so positively about this experience, that was probably really hard to sit with your own honest experience and yet also verbalize that, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could talk bubbly about how awesome this is, and it's still hard.
Yeah.
So you also alluded to taking the time to, while you were in the area, touring the programs, which is super important. I always tell any of the families that I work with, if you can, please get out there. If not, like, you're doing virtual tours, if you can physically go, that's like the best experience because you see everything. That said, I'm also anticipating that the second step for him after Aspiro involved school. So how was the next step for him?
So he went, I toured those schools. He ended up being accepted where he wanted to go, which was good, which was Daniels, which is also now closed, unfortunately. I think it saved his life. I think both programs did. And I feel like they saved our family as well. And his therapist there was just blown away. But the therapist basically told my son in January, he said, here, the first step in the program is, you have to forgive your family. And the therapist told us, not that you think you need forgiveness, but in his eyes, you do, he needs to forgive you. And I don't know what happened with my child, but and I'm so proud of him, he made a decision that he was going to turn things around. And from that point on, everything just changed. And in this program, it's a very, they had lots of clear steps that they had to follow and guidelines and earning privileges. And his therapist was very positive, built his self-esteem, and it was unbelievable. He started talking to us. We would be laughing. We would start looking forward to his phone calls. Our first in-person visit was over spring break. My husband and I split our time, simply because that's how we had to. My husband had a great time with him. I took him skiing. I had a great time with him. It was great. He was really going through the program. School there for him was very easy. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't care what it was. That's not why he was. I would have loved for it to have been more, but it just can't be everything. Other kids there needed different things. And my main goal was his mental health, not his education. And I knew that we could deal with that, when he finished with this. And also it gave him the space to work on himself and not think about academics and do, working hard and so forth. So, in the home where he lived, a lot of stuff happens, a lot of dysregulation. There's a lot of action that happens in those homes. And I think it's good for the kids. They can see what they look like when they're dysregulated. He built friendships. A kid actually just visited us this weekend from the program. It was amazing. He actually went through the program the fastest in the history of the program. So he got there in December. He left in August. He returned to his home school. He is completing his junior year. He is applying to colleges. He has not had one episode of dysregulation. I cannot tell you how amazing this outcome has been. We never, ever would have thought that we would be here now, where we are with him now. And so I'm just trying to preserve that. I mean, I guess I kind of whipped through that. I don't know if you have any questions. He continued contact with his therapist a little bit after he came back home. And we also hired an executive functioning coach that worked with him weekly for, actually, he just stopped that, and he's getting ready to have final exams. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he went back to his school. The kids knew he was away working on his mental health. He was received with open arms. It's really an amazing story. He has two sisters, two older sisters, one sort of in college. The other sister really suffered a lot here with him. And his year away was her senior year in high school. And I actually think, that was an important year for her too. She needed that time. I think she was really suffering, and she's doing well too. So we're just so grateful. And we also think, my God, if we had waited 3 more months, the 2 programs he went to aren't even open anymore. And to me, it's so sad because I feel like, the opportunities I think they saved his life. I really do. So.
It sounds like, even though, right, that initial parent visit in Wilderness still felt like you were in kind of like the thick of the rigidity and the, like, we haven't hit that crossroads of change, right? Like you said, the U-turn, but now it is like a complete 180 and truly like the best case scenario for how well he is doing and how well your entire family is doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And the teachers, they say it like it is. And his report cards come home and, they write about how he's changed, and it is the best case scenario. I can tell you that, I went to all the workshops by Daniels. I went every time we were supposed to go, and my husband came when he could, but through that, I met other parents and a couple parents that I still keep in touch with. And I think that is really important, because talking to parents, the process is not linear, right? So you move forward, but there's step back, and you move forward and there's steps back. And so when there's a step back, I have to say at this point, we don't have many steps back, but when there were, I tried not to think, okay, this is never going to work. I just I kind of trusted the process, and I just have to give him a lot of credit, because I do feel like he made this decision, that he wanted to come back home and resume his life here. And he did everything he could to make that happen. And all the things that he did to make it happen, I think it really supported his mental health. So yeah, I do feel like it's the best case scenario, but I think it's an important scenario for people to hear about. So
yeah. Well, I think that as we're wrapping up, so I just want to thank you, Rosie, for taking the time to share your parent perspective of literally like pre-wilderness and like followed up treatment, just treatment in general, right? For having an adolescent child that was really struggling. If you could, let's finish the interview with you imparting any last like advice or suggestion to a parent that might be listening, that might be in the thick of it. And I do feel like some parts of your story you've kind of peppered in, like, oh, if we had only waited 3 months, like things would have been so drastically different. So we're grateful that we went when we did. That feels really profound, right? Like, don't wait. But if there's any other advice you would give to a parent kind of in the thick of it right now, what advice would you give?
I think aside from all the other things I have said, the other thing that I really would advise to parents is, I think when you do this and you send your kid away, I think you can't help but worry what other people think. Families looking, and I can't say that, if I didn't experience what we went through and I saw a family send their kid away, I don't know, I might be like, oh my gosh, how could they do that or whatever. But I found that we did not hide what we did. And I found people to be so incredibly kind and supportive. And I had decided that if they weren't, then they weren't people that I needed to spend a lot of time with or any time with, because we made the best decision we could in the worst of circumstances. And so I guess, that's one thing that I kind of advice I would give to people is just be confident and know that only people going through what you're going through right now know how bad it is and what you need to do to support your child. And that's what you're doing. You're supporting your child. You're not, sending them away so that you can have calm in your, you want your child to make progress, and you want your family to be reunited. So that would be some advice I would give.
I think that's the best way to end this interview, is to surround yourself with people that are supporting the decisions that you're making in the moment. So Rosie, thanks again for being a guest on the podcast.
No problem. Thank you.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. Put a face with a voice by accessing their interview on the newly formed successissubjective.org website. If you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email Joanna at joanna@successissubjective.org. Be sure to check out the collegealternative.org and lilyconsulting.com websites for additional resources outside of podcasting. If you are listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe to the show. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Last but not least, Success is Subjective is listener supported, made possible by our team and by you. You can support this podcast by joining the Patreon community at patreon.com/successissubjective. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.
Do you have a teenager or young adult who seems to have lost their way? Maybe they need help navigating adolescence, adulthood, and decisions surrounding higher education. Or maybe they have become withdrawn, their grades are slipping, or they are flat out living a reckless lifestyle, and you're concerned about their health and well-being. If this describes what your teen or young adult is facing, a therapeutic consultant may be able to help. Mental health, addiction recovery, and higher education can all be equally expensive. While information is everywhere, how do you know what option is the best one for your family? Some parents have the time to research and navigate this on their own. Some don't. If the latter applies to you, enter therapeutic consultants. Therapeutic consultants, like Joanna, listen to your family's specific needs and advocate on behalf of your loved one. TCs will research therapeutic resources, recommend treatment programs, and assist during adulthood transitions. Not being affiliated with any program, their support is completely objective and catered toward the best interest of each unique family. To find a qualified therapeutic consultant to work with, check out TCA, also known as the Therapeutic Consulting Association. Their website is therapeuticconsulting.org, all one word. Again, that's therapeuticconsulting.org. Then click the Find a Pro tab up at the top.